As sex, which should be a source of pleasure and connection, often becomes the point of greatest frustration in relationships. It's remarkable how something so natural and instinctive, capable of generating intimacy and pleasure, can, in some couples, become the main trigger for fights, resentment, and emotional distance. Have you ever wondered why, even after intimate moments, it seems the emotional gap grows instead of shrinking? Many believe sex unites, but the truth is that it can reveal hidden problems and amplify silent conflicts that existed even before the bedroom. Imagine John and Mariana, an ordinary couple full of love at first, with intense attraction and undeniable chemistry. In the first months, every sexual encounter felt magical. However, over time, small details began to weigh heavily. John felt that Mariana wasn't emotionally connecting, while Mariana felt he didn't understand her needs. Every sexual act, which should have brought them closer, started generating silent frustration that eventually turned into constant arguments. Sex and emotion are deeply intertwined. There is no isolated physical pleasure when there are unmet expectations, vulnerability, and unexpressed desires. When one partner feels ignored or frustrated, these emotions overflow, making even intimate moments problematic. One of the clearest signs that sex is becoming an issue is the lack of communication about desires. Many couples believe that talking about fantasies or needs could lead to embarrassment or conflict, and they remain silent. But silence does not eliminate frustration. It quietly accumulates. Imagine Mariana, who enjoys being affectionate and needs touches that convey security. She doesn't speak up for fear of judgment. John, on the other hand, believes he's meeting her expectations and doesn't notice the signs of disconnect. With each intimate encounter, Mariana's frustration grows but remains invisible. This silent frustration begins to manifest outside the bedroom, turning small situations into arguments and emotional distance. Talking openly about sex is not just healthy, it's essential. Ignoring desires or fearing to express them can turn pleasure into a problem and create invisible barriers between partners. Another frequent cause of frustration is the pressure to meet unrealistic expectations. Many believe they must always be available, perform in a certain way, or reach idealized standards, whether from past experiences, external comparisons, or media influence. This pressure turns sex into an obligation and pleasure is lost. Those who feel emotional pressure start to withdraw, while the partner notices the lack of engagement and feels rejected, creating a cycle of frustration that feeds itself. In some relationships, sex is used as a tool for control or reconciliation after fights. Initially, it seems to work. Partners get physically close and tension decreases. But over time, this creates resentment and emotional distance because problems remain unresolved, only postponed. Differences in sexual desire between partners also cause conflicts. When one desires more intimacy than the other, feelings of rejection, guilt, or pressure emerge. For example, Carla wants intimacy daily while Luke prefers only a few times a week. Carla feels rejected, questions her attractiveness, and Luke feels pressured and suffocated. Without dialogue, the result is a cycle of frustration and emotional withdrawal. Psychological and emotional issues also directly affect sex. Anxiety, guilt, shame, or low self-esteem create silent tension during intimacy. One partner may feel incapable of satisfying the other, while the other feels unsatisfied or frustrated. These internal struggles often remain invisible but affect daily life. Irritability, disconnection, and even disinterest increase distance. Recognizing the signs that sex is causing arguments and distance is essential. These include the need to fake or overexert during sex, arguments immediately after intimacy, emotional disconnect despite physical closeness, using sex as a manipulation tool, and gradual distancing with less affection and touch. If you notice any of these signs in your relationship, it's time to pause, reflect, and take action. Ignoring sexual frustration only increases the risk of breakup. It's possible to reverse this cycle. First, communicate openly about desires, boundaries and expectations without judgment. Reconnect emotionally, remembering that sex without emotional connection leads to frustration. Avoid using sex as a bargaining tool by resolving conflicts before physical intimacy. Practice self-awareness and acceptance. Understand your libido, needs, and limits. And if necessary, seek professional help, such as sexual or couples therapists, to create effective reconnection strategies. Maria and Raphael are a couple dealing with silent frustration. Raphael felt Maria didn't desire him, and Maria felt he didn't understand her emotionally. Every sexual encounter felt distant, lacking true connection. Over time, they began to drift apart, arguing over trivial things. After reflecting and seeking help, they started talking about desires and expectations, set boundaries, and created moments of emotional intimacy before physical intimacy. Gradually, pleasure became a source of connection again, and emotional distance significantly decreased. Luke and Anna had a similar pattern, using sex as reconciliation after fights. Initially, it seemed to work, but frustration grew. When they resolved conflicts before intimacy, each encounter became far more meaningful and satisfying. Beyond individual stories, it's crucial to understand that sex often exposes invisible patterns of behavior within couples. Small, accumulated frustrations turn into resentment that manifests outside the bedroom. Arguments about chores, daily habits, or even children can stem from unresolved sexual dissatisfaction. A partner who feels constantly frustrated may start criticizing more, getting easily irritated, or emotionally withdrawing. Another may develop anxiety or feel undesired. These reactions don't happen in isolation. They intensify over time, creating a cycle that, if not interrupted, can lead to the end of the relationship. It's essential to understand that sex is not just a physical act. It is an expression of vulnerability, trust, and intimacy. When any of these elements is missing, even frequent or seemingly satisfying sex is not enough to sustain emotional connection. Deep reflections about what each partner feels, expects, and needs are fundamental. Questions like, do I feel heard and understood? Are my needs being met in a healthy way? And are we truly connecting emotionally before physical intimacy? Help map invisible issues and provide paths to solutions. Additionally, understanding that differences in libido are natural, not character flaws, is crucial. A partner with lower desire is not necessarily disinterested or insensitive, just as a partner with higher desire is not selfish. Open communication, empathy, and negotiating needs become indispensable tools. Practical exercises can help, creating intimate moments without sexual pressure, exploring touch and affection before intercourse, expressing desires and boundaries verbally, and scheduling sincere conversations about expectations. This creates a safe environment where both partners feel understood and valued. In long-term relationships, the problem can be even more delicate. Routine, stress, and familiarity can reduce sexual intensity, making sex mechanical or emotionally disconnected. In these cases, reigniting curiosity, exploring new forms of intimacy, and reconnecting emotionally before physical intimacy is essential to avoid frustration and distance. It's also important to recognize when individual emotional issues interfere with sexual life. Anxiety, depression, past traumas, and insecurities can deeply affect intimacy. In such situations, seeking professional help is an act of care for yourself and your relationship. Sex can bring couples closer, unite, and strengthen love, but it can also push them apart and generate resentment if signs of frustration are not noticed and addressed. Recognizing these signs, communicating, understanding your own desires and emotions, and acting with empathy transforms the hidden side of sex into something that brings couples together rather than driving them apart. The hidden side of sex does not have to destroy your relationship. It becomes problematic only when dialogue, respect, and mutual understanding are lacking. With attention, care, and communication, sex can once again become a source of pleasure, connection, and the strengthening of love, rather than a reason for arguments and distance. And if you want to continue learning how to improve your relationships, handle conflicts, and strengthen your intimacy, subscribe to the channel now, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos, and share your experiences in the comments, because your story can help others transform their relationships.